What up guys? So today we're doing a mixing masterclass. I'm very excited about this one. We're gonna take a look on how to take a good track and make it sound great. It's everything about the details and the little things. I suggest you have headphones or maybe big speakers so you can understand the concepts that we are doing here on the low end and how we mix kick and bass especially. And without further ado, let's go into the project. The first thing that we do when we get a track to mix, it's very different from what we want, and it's a very different mentality than mixing your own tracks. The first steps I did here was listen from the beginning to the end, and you have a good understanding of the track. So right here, the main things are kick, bass, and the vocals. So here is the bass before. And here is after the processing. The big difference here that you hear is that it has more punch to it. So what we did here is we took the bass and the little attack that it had, we made it very big. So we have this thing right here. So in order to do that, we go with OTT at 100%. Then we do a lot of saturation, so we get even more that high-end click. Then we do some very weird EQing. This is called dynamic EQ. Every time the click that we took out from the OTT and the distortion, it will take that and push it a little bit further. Then we have Camel Crusher, because why not? With full distortion, the British Clean preset. And then we have a gate. So the gate makes a lot of difference here because it doesn't let all the bass come out. It lets only what crosses the threshold to go out. Everything that is below, it doesn't go out. So if we leave this and we go directly without the gate, you will hear this. But we don't want that. We just want the click. So now only what goes above the threshold we will hear. All this processing that we did is only like 20%. We don't need more. We just want a little bit of a click. Then we are doing the same thing. This is also a parallel processing. We have this now. This is parallel, but this is for the low end of the bass. So what we did here is take the bass frequencies and make them very heavily compressed, very flat. So you have like a bass that has no groove, nothing. It's just right there. It's very technical. You don't want something like this in your track. So that's why you do it on parallel. So you have a brick of a wall that is very steady right there for your speakers. And then we have 100% the bass without any processing. That is a little bit more loose and more groovy. So you put the processing that we did right there. So it's very heavily compressed and it's like this. And then you also have the other one that goes like this. And you have both. So you have a very steady low end and also it's groovy at the same time. So nothing fancy. Again, some distortion. We go to an EQ and then again to OTT to squeeze it even more. And then some EQ because we want only the low end. So as we go into the project, you will see that I have a lot of things that I have done, then later took out. That means that it's everything about trial and error. You try something, it doesn't work, you try something else, and then you go on. So now we have a parallel processing for the grooviness of the bass. So we take the attacks. Then we have another parallel processing for the foundation of the bass, the low end, and it's steady now. So now that the technical part is outside, let's say, we start doing little adjustments. So this is just an EQ. Then we have a multiband. So what we do here is we compress the low end with a very fast attack and a high release. So we keep it there, we keep it steady. And then we compress the higher part with more attack and less release. So you get more clicks. Then an EQ that does nothing. Then we have a limiter that is working as a clipper. And then a fruity balance and the sidechain. I put fruity balance right here in -2 because I want to see if I close all my plugins, I want to have the same volume as before. So when I go back and forth, I want to hear the differences in what I make, not the differences in volume. Because everything that is louder sounds better in our ears. So if I close the plugins, before and after, you have the same volume, but the bass sounds better. Here we have before and after. Also, another thing that you will notice is that the bass, when we do all the processing, plays lower than the bass before the processing. The peaks go lower, but we hear that it's louder. And this is through all this processing that we did. So here you will see it goes minus almost 13, minus 12. And without the processing, it goes minus 9 or something. And then we send the kick, the bass, and all the drums to one group. I will talk about this group later. Here is a section that all the drums are playing. Instead of this, without any effects. How do we make the drums sound more like one? You will see that we don't do big changes. We don't want to change the track. We just want to make it sound better. So for the kick, we just do a normal EQ on linear phase medium. This means that it takes more time to process the EQ curves that we are doing, but it will give a better result at the end, and also would not change the phases. When we do low cuts, we always change the phase of the kick. Very standard EQ and a compression, and then some EQ again. This would be like at the end of the mix. And here we have, I would say, like my secret weapon, LFO tool. You make the sidechain that you want from your bass, and you put it right here. And here that it says volume, instead of 100%, you put it at minus 100%. You will see that the kick fades out in half a beat. Here is very little the difference, but usually you would have like kicks that go all the way until the end and will clash with the basses and will create all this mess on the low end. So this is the kick before and after. Small difference, but every little step takes us very much further. So then we have kick and bass together. Instead of this. See, it's more put together when we do all the processing, and it's more in your face. It sounds a little bit more dirty, but in this track, I did put some dirt on purpose. It was very empty as a track. Needed some dirt, something to make it more full, because it was only kick, bass, and vocals. Then, for the rest of the drums, nothing crazy. We have two claps playing. One that sounds like this has no processing at all. It's just the click. And one that has the ambience. That's why I put this one right here. So the ambience is more tight. Then we have the hi-hat. Nothing fancy right here. I just put some transient designer to have more punch. And I just put a little bit on the right, so we get a little bit of a better placement on everything. And just some reverb. And this one is to control the hi-hat. See? It makes it tighter. It controls the reverb and all the hi-hat a little bit better. Then you have some perks, some noises right here. So all the drums, everything that makes the groove in the track goes to one bass, the drums and the bass. So here we compress the drums and the bass in a way so everything comes together and gets more glued. So these are the drums before anything on the bass. It doesn't make a big difference, but it takes it to a place where it's more together. It's like one groove. You hear a groove. You don't hear elements. And this is what you want. So we have just a normal compression with medium to slow attack, fast release, 4.2 ratio, nothing much, and doing like 1 dB of compression. It's enough, in my opinion. And then we have also, again, parallel processing. We put them through a distortion, and you put too much distortion, that is this. Obviously, this is too much. Together with a clear signal. So this is kick, the bass, and all the drums. If we move on, we have the effects. Here we don't have anything really to say. Mostly did like volumes, and everything goes to a track. Usually when they send you effects, see if they are really effects and if they are not drums. Because sometimes you will get like percussions and stuff like that in the effects session from a producer, but they are really in the drum section because they're putting groove into the track. Now, we have the lead. Let's see what we did. EQ, extreme EQ, I would say. Then we are controlling the sides with an EQ. Then we have a sooth. This one right here, it's to control it more. In sooth, if you press here on delta, you will hear what the plugin does. It just keeps it a little bit under control. Then we have an imager that does nothing. Okay. Then we have some distortion. This is multiband distortion. This is also something else that I do. Instead of EQing, I distort to EQ. When you do a multiband distortion, you get like a different kind of EQing. Also, again, extreme distortion, again on the highs. And then we have some EQ again. And then again some sooth, doing again the same thing, keeping the lead under control. And everything goes to one bass that has just an EQ in there. And then we have this offbeat lead. We have again some parallel processing, doing the same thing, so we get more attack from this lead. So this is like 10%, and it sounds like this. See, just a little bit of a click. And if you put it together, instead of, see, you get a little bit more click right there. And then some EQ to cut the lows so we don't clash.